Hi everybody! Today on To The Garage, the refurbed Wishbone, its new bushes and ball joints are going back in. Hooray! If you haven't seen the other episodes, go and check them out first. But we now have a Wishbone that has been cleaned up and powder coated and is completely stripped and ready to go. I covered the bore where the Wishbone goes with a little bit of heat resistant tape, just so that it made it easier for me to clean up, ready for pressing in. There she is. And before I do anything with these bushes, we want to put ball joint back in, or at least replace it, because we're putting a brand new ball joint in here. If you buy these as pre-restored or exchange items, then a pair of them is going to cost you £400 or more in most places. So it's well worth replacing the bushes and the ball joints yourself. Here's our new ball joint. And unlike the one I've removed, it's very, very difficult to move this in its socket. I can do it if I put it in a vise, if I put a spanner on here, it all moves around. But by hand, very difficult indeed. And what I'd like you to note is, there's this land, which is what's going to give us the interference fit inside our Wishbone. This, which is going to stop us pushing it in too far. But there is a lead on it, a reduced diameter near the front. That enables you to get it started and lined up rather than trying to push it in at a funny angle. So that's very important. If your replacement ball joint doesn't have that, then you're going to struggle to push these in. So it's a decent check of quality, but they haven't just machined this flat. It's got this lead to get it started. If you want to know a little more about the press and my setup for doing this, check out the previous videos in the series, because I covered that when I was talking about removing the bush. I'm doing this dry, so no lubricants are involved. And unlike when we removed it, achieving a nice contact point is actually very easy. Another important feature is we do not want to put any pressure on this bright steel area in the middle, because that's a pressed steel area that is supporting the nylon cup inside. It's very important that we only push on this flange. Okay, so here's my setup. I've got a very large socket on the bottom with a ball joint sitting in it. I've got the bush, and this is a brake caliper piston with a packing piece on the back, so I don't actually try and puncture the end of it. I'm using the thickness of the wall to push the flange in. So that's well and truly aligned and going in. Just noted a little flake of powder coat, I think, that's settled on that edge. So just taking it off so I've got a nice clean face to pull down to. And we're making sure we're pushing all the way home. Down to the flange. When I feel the pressure come on, I know I'm there. Done. Bear in mind my press cost about £230, and a pair of Wishbones costs, if you have them pre-refurbed, around £400. Even if you've got to set yourself up to do this job, and you can do it a lot cheaper than with a press, as we've just previously described. It's worth having a look at. There we go. New ball joint pressed in. Now it's time to push in the new bushes. Now these are very easy to do. You may even manhandle them in with a mallet and your hands, but generally they do need a bit of a push. I'm going to use my vise for this, just because, again, demonstrating you don't need any special kit. Open your vise a little wider than the completed bush. Then, when they're installed, the bushes sit on these shaped washers. If you place one of those on there, so we're able to push the steel washer without breaking up the rubber, and do the same on the other end with another washer. There it is. So I've got two steel shaped washers. Then I'm going to split this back up, and we're going to get our wishbone. Put the bush in the rig. After opening up a little bit more. And what we want to make sure is, before we get excited with any force, that the sleeve is well and truly inside the other half of the bush. So we know things are going to line up nicely. There we go. Then we pop the whole thing back in the vise using my extra hand, which is today my knee. There we go. And gently squeeze the whole thing together. If you're feeling a lot of resistance, just stop. Take it all off, start again. This is generally a little bit more than you can easily do by hand, but not a lot. So if you're struggling, something's wrong. Just gonna have a little look. Yep, it's all going well. Now you can do this dry, or you can lube the eyes in your wishbone. Whatever works best for you. That's gone together quite well dry. But for this one, I'm just going to use a little bit of spray grease. And you can see I can more or less manhandle that one in. The second one's generally a little harder, mainly just because of air pressure inside here. But you can slip that on like so. Washer. Washer. Remember, these washers are just to stop me pushing on the rubber parts. Oops. Pick that back up. Given the pressures you're going to exert, you're probably not going to do any harm pushing on the rubber parts, but why would you if you don't have to? There we go. So, pulled together. Done. And done. Okay, now for reassembly. Very straightforward. Our new wishbone. Just going to offer up. And we're going to get our washer set, which we've carefully coded so we know where everything goes. And our bolt, which if it's rusty, replace it. Mine's fabulous and has not been out too long ago. So ready to reuse. And first thing I need is the first outer shaped washer. Which goes on there. Bolt goes through from the front. Again, wheel arch liners out, gives you more space, but not strictly necessary. There we go. Next, I want to get the washers that fit here. And for mine, not necessarily for yours, it's the shaped washer. Should always be touching the bush. Just pull that back a bit further. That goes in there. Followed by a thin and a thick washer. The approximate values for these is 1.5 millimeters, but I'm not going to be micrometering them up because, as I said, they are shims. They can be different on different cars. They're part of your suspension setup. Now, the trick is to get them central enough so you can poke the bolt through. There we go. I'm in. So the first bush is all lined up. Next, I want the washers that fit in this gap. On mine, it's the same again. I've got a shaped washer that fits up against the bush. And the same thick and thin, 1 mil and 1/2 mil-ish, that goes behind it. Okay. Wriggle them into position. I'm in. Let's give it a little tap. It's not tight. What happens is if everything's not lined up, the washers bite on the bolt and stop it moving forward. So got to jiggle your wishbone at the same time as you tap the bolt. And it should go through pretty easily. There we go. And then the last washer is a shaped washer on the outside of this end. And then we have our flanged nut. Just going to wind on. Just till it's in finger tight contact with everything. And then give this a wiggle Shouldn't be any scraping, shouldn't be any squeaking, because we are working bearings, those PTFE dry bearings, not metal on metal. Lovely. Next, need to get this ball joint back in the hub. Should be very easy. The only issue here is because it's stiff, it's hard to align, so I have to use the weight of the hub, hopefully, to straighten things up a little. There we go. We're in. We're not very far. There we go. And a rubber mallet, remember, tin cap in the middle, so try not to hit that. Let's take the chain off now. That was just holding the hub up. But just give it a little. There we go. It's going down nicely. Eased into position. I'll fit our new 19mm nylock that came with a ball joint. It's 19mm head, by the way. And that should wind on. If you find that the ball joint's rotating, slipping, then what you do is tap this with a rubber mallet whilst you're tightening it. Just give it a decent tighten by hand to make sure this is well and truly seated. There we go. Then I've got the 24mm spanners on the top. Okay, so the top pivot bolt, or the fulcrum bolt, that should be 110 Newton meters. So set it yourself up with an appropriate torque device. Just trying to make sure I've got a socket that's all the way on the right hand side, because the bolt is quite long. As always, if possible, use 6-sided sockets. There's not a lot of strain on this side, so holding it with a 12-pointer ring spanner shouldn't be an issue. $110. And the ball joint wants to be 70 Newton meters. I'm having to use an extension for access, so I will set myself to 75, which is well within the range anyway. There we go. For those of you with a need to know the actual details, the top fulcrum bolt actual torque spec is 98 to 132 Newton meters, so you've got quite a range in there, and your upper ball joint is 60 to 80 Newton meters. All that then remains is to cable tie that back to the top and plug in the ABS sensor, like so. And in my case, cable tie the earth wire, not present on later cars, to the underside of the wishbone and bolt that back on to the ABS sensor mount. And that really is it. So again, it's not actually that complicated a task. The top wishbones I think are a lot more doable than the bottom. The bottom, if you want to do those and refurb them, and I will be, so I'll show you how, are a little bit more involved. You've got to be a little bit more creative, I would say. And I think it's more of a genuine option. Would you like to buy those complete and ready, even though they're even more expensive? But the top wishbones, no. I mean, what are you going to pay to do what I've done? If you've got tools and the confidence, whoops, made a mistake, put the cable tie round. There we go, without putting the earth wire in place. If you've got the tools and the confidence, then you're looking at probably around 55 to 65 pounds all in for a pair of wishbone bushes of the original style, but not OE from Jaguar. And similarly, pattern part ball joints, but from a good supplier. And then depending on what you haven't got around you, maybe you've got to invest 40 or 50 pounds in a pressing tool, a C or G clamp type pressing tool. Or if you know that you're going to regularly play with this sort of stuff, a press. Or you just use a lot of ingenuity, a bit more patience and get a friend to help, and you use vices. If you took this to a garage, and we're not talking main dealers here, we're talking independent, local, reliable garage who knows how to do a few things from first principles rather than just swapping modules, etc. You know the sort. Then I think, including the parts, it's quite realistic for them to charge you £300 or £400 for this. I think that's a little steep, but it's very realistic, and I certainly wouldn't be calling a garage for ripping you off if they did this and charged you £300 or £400. So the price of a set of reconditioned wishbones, and then you'd have to fit them yourself. So that's a decent deal. If you took this to Jaguar, I don't know, somebody can let me know in the comments if they've had it done at Jaguar. I would guess this would be £600 to £700 to have done if they said they could get the bits, and they might be of the type of garage where nobody's got the experience or kit, so they're actually buying in Jaguar reconditioned wishbones, and it might be much higher. And remember, these are prices for one side, so you've got to double up. Definitely worth a stab at doing things yourself. But I do accept not everybody's confident enough, got the right tools, wants to crawl around under their car. I know a lot of my viewers don't do their own work, but they are interested just to know what's involved, so that they're not completely at the mercy of garages. They know what they're talking about, what parts we're looking at. Is it difficult? Is it easy? Etc, etc. Well, that was my little Christmas present to Purdy, my XK8. Top front suspension geometry is returned to standard, and it won't have the variation in it. Lower half to come, and I will get onto that, but it's not going to come straight away. P.S. I've had a few comments and emails saying, "Oh John, you're off for Christmas now. You better knock out a new video for us every day. That'd be fantastic. Really looking forward to it." Not quite. This has taken me 3 days to do 3 episodes because filming. The place is a mess. And of course, what you forget is, I haven't even started on that side. And I'm sure you don't want to see the movie about that. So everything takes a little longer than you anticipate. And I'll see you all real soon. Bye. If you're enjoying our channel, then don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon so you get notifications of new videos. And please give us a thumbs up or thumbs down, and you can share the videos. And below the video is always the area where you can comment and get involved with the chat.